77 WABC.
This is the John Sterling Show. Now, here's John Sterling.
And we are back, and we have our guest all lined up, ready to go. But before we do that, we go to the 77 WABC ActionCarting.com phone line. New York City's premier waste and recycling provider. Kim Jones, although she's a beautiful young lady, she's a football person. And she has broadcast football on WFAN. She's broadcast football on the National Football League Network and for Newsday on the island. And she's a good friend of mine. So here is Kim Jones. And Kim, first of all, how are you doing?
Currently out of work, John, so maybe you could work some magic for me. How's that?
Well, I'll work at it tomorrow. There's no question about it. Let's talk about the New York football teams at the beginning.
Let's do it.
Because it's been so many years, it seems almost impossible that a team can be bad for that many years. Although the Detroit Lions, before Dan Campbell got there, they weren't good for about 60 years. 60! They may have made a couple of playoffs, but that's all. Anyway, let's begin with the Jets. They play Dallas tomorrow in the Meadowlands. Justin Fields is the new quarterback. Some of your thoughts?
Well, someone needs to jolt the Jets a little bit. I didn't try for that alliteration, and it just happened. But, the Jets can't find their way. They look like a team that, I'll tell you, John, earlier, I think you can look at seasons and kind of sort of diagnose them. Now, that doesn't mean the Jets can't run off a few good wins here and feel good about themselves, and then everything changes for a team, right? We've all seen that happen, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever, that happens. But the Jets now, for a couple of administrations, just can't get it together. And I'm not close enough, candidly, to the Jets to diagnose that for you or for the listeners or anything else. But clearly, and I know there'll be some eye rolls here from Jets fans if they're listening, clearly something is very wrong with this franchise. And multiple administrations have not been able to get it together. That is the alarming part, because the NFL, generally speaking, it doesn't always allow for this, but often allows for a team to have a bad year or two, but then rise. And that's why we all love the NFL. It has that propensity to it. But with the Jets right now, they can't get out of their own way. And I have to believe there are people in that administration really working hard on why this happens now year after year with the New York Jets.
Well, one thing, all these teams beginning are based on the quarterback.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
Fields has great legs. The touchdown run that he had against Miami, I thought was fabulous when he reversed field and all. I thought that was fabulous. But I haven't seen enough of his arm. It's one thing to have a strong arm, which he might have. Someone in the business told me, well, he has a really strong arm. But that's not how you complete tough passes, in tight windows. And I'll ask for your thoughts. Right now, I don't know if Justin Fields is a good enough passer.
I don't know that he is either. And I also wonder about mentoring and that kind of thing. Listen, it's dog eat dog, right? In the world of professional sports, but there has to be someone, and certainly coaching comes into this as well, but who can say to Fields, we need this kind of progress from you. The problem, John, is once an NFL season starts rolling, they go so fast that I think sometimes, especially for a younger player, which he still is, of course, to kind of corral it. It's already getting late early, to use a cliche. So, what I what I know would concern me the most is the season after season declines, because to me that speaks to the entire franchise, not just a quarterback who probably needs some mentoring and probably, I would say almost certainly needs some confidence.
Well, I just wonder, first of all, I'm not saying he's not, because I haven't seen it.
Right.
But
right.
I haven't seen him throw the ball, and you can't, it sounds so good to say, we're going to run the ball, But once you get behind, then you can't run the ball. You got to throw the ball in the NFL. I mean, it's a quarterback league. It's a passing league. Now, let's go to the other team in New York. Both these teams have disappointed for so long. I was going to mention my last guest, Chip Carey, was talking about how exciting Seattle was to go there. Sure, because they haven't won in so long. Now they have a guy hitting 60 homers and they're in first place. Of course, the place was up for grabs, as Chip said. The New York fans, do they want to win?
Yep.
You can't blame them. I laugh when I read, John Mara does it. John Mara, he'd like to win more than anyone in the world. Yep. Anyway, maybe they have the quarterback. I'm not going to fall all over for one game, but tell me what you think about Jackson Dart.
I think he has some moxie. Not a cliche. I think he has a little something to him. I think in this market, John, as you well know, you have to have something to you. If you're gonna handle the ups and downs here. Now, we don't know all about that yet with him. He's just too young, and we've not seen enough. But he does seem to have some, like I said, some moxie. He seems to have a decent grasp of everything, which, and I don't say that lightly, like, he has a grasp of everything. Good job, Kim. Well, but I can only imagine, because I can't imagine what it is like for these young quarterbacks who get thrust into the starting lineup early because of one reason or another. We've seen it in many teams. Obviously the Jets and Giants are the ones we talk about most often, but he has to be trying right now to handle an awful lot. And one thing that I would think they are impressing upon him is stay in your lane, do what we are coaching you to do, and everything else right now will take care of itself.
Well, he certainly can run the ball, and I used watching him play in that win over Los Angeles, the Chargers. I used the same word as you did in my mind. I said, this kid has moxie. I like the way he ran the team, and I like the way he ran. I don't know about his arm, because they had him throwing very, very short passes. And it's interesting, this weekend, he plays against a team he probably should beat in New Orleans. They're 2-point underdogs, but I think they should be favored. But then 4 days later, on a Thursday, they have to play the Eagles. So I guess we'll find out a little bit about Mr. Dart, don't you think?
We will. He'll find out a little bit, excuse me, John, a little bit about himself too, probably in that Eagles game. That's a considerable step up for any team, and certainly a team with a rookie quarterback at this point. And the Eagles aren't, as you know, John, the Eagles aren't going to say like, we kind of feel bad for the kid. I mean,
no.
That's going to be a rough one. In all probability. Now, John, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the kid does have this it factor and he can hold his own, but that's a real tough test.
Yeah. And we're going to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
And these other teams are going to go to school on every tape they have, how to play them. Now, just recently, we have had 2 first-year quarterbacks do very well. J.W. Stroud in Houston and Layden Daniels in Washington. So it can be done, right? It
can be. Washington in particular was really impressive, given what had swirled all around that franchise for a long, long time. and then for them to put it together. So sure, it can happen. It can absolutely happen. You have to have some pixie dust though, John. You have to have a little bit of luck in this world. I have to imagine that extends to, NFL football.
Well, it does tell you though what a quarterback will do. Because as you mentioned, Kim, Washington was lousy for a long time, and all of a sudden they got good. Now, they had to have good players around Daniels, but he certainly turned that franchise around. Stroud did as well for 1 year. Mm-hmm. And I guess we have to wait, which is the normal thing. In New York, they don't wait, though. Have you noticed? I do a line all the time that if you lose a game, you're the worst team in the history of that sport. If you win a game, championship. So there's very little middle ground in New York. We're going to come back. Kim, I have to take care of some business. We're going to come back and look at the rest of the NFL, and we'll do that in just a moment. Here at 77, what would you like? Oh, I'm going to do that later. I know what I'm doing. Anyway, we'll do that all at 77 WABC.
77 scores again.
This is the John Sterling Show. Now, here's John Sterling.
And to add to the thought about my hearing aid, let me say something I've almost never said before. It is high. It is far. It is crystal clear. Hear every moment with Phonak Lyric, where better hearing hits it out of the park. Go see Dr. Shelley today, a darling gal, by the way, at New York City Hearing. New York City Hearing, and hear the world again. My guest is Kim Jones, a noted football reporter. Let me ask you this. Is this finally the year for Buffalo?
It might be, John. It might be. If I could introduce you to Josh Allen, you would immediately fall in love with him. And I'm not joking. Like, that was Josh Allen and the Bills provided me with some of my best moments in terms of football coverage in my life. And it was because they were really a good team. They did everything that professionally that you would want a team or a player or anyone else to do. Josh Allen never declined an interview request from me. And listen, if he did, I wouldn't be mad at him. I mean, plenty have. But Josh Allen always got it. It was almost as if, and I promise you, I don't mean this in a weird way whatsoever. I really don't. He's a great young man. He's fantastic. He's awesome. But there were times that, like, he would come over after a win and just kind of like look at me, and I'd look at him and I'm like, yeah, of course I'll interview you for NFL Network at this point. You know, he has moxie, he has everything he needs, but he also has sort of a human element. And I'm certainly not knocking other players when I say that, but he was special in that regard, John. And I do miss my times going to see Buffalo, not when it's 12 inches of snow on the ground, but to see that team because of how in Buffalo they comport themselves and how media friendly I have always found them to be. And that's selfish on my part. But listen, John, we all have some who, maybe don't treat you quite as nicely, and you say, boy, I really appreciate the ones who do. And I've been lucky in my career in that regard.
Well, first of all, I couldn't agree with everything you said. It's absolutely true. I love offense in all sports.
Yes.
I want to see the quarterback throw the ball 50 times. So when Josh Allen came into the league with that howitzer of an arm, I became a big Josh Allen fan. And he would have won his first playoff game, but the coaches took it away from him. They got conservative. and they lost. They haven't been conservative since.
Exactly.
So I'm with you about Josh Allen. And now, who would be the team to beat in the NFC? We know that Buffalo could be the team to beat in the AFC.
Right.
Along, by the way, we shouldn't eliminate Kansas City this early. But who do you like in the NFC?
Well, it's an easy one when you look at Philly. Is Philly going to be able to, muster all of that attention and handle the attention, I should say, and muster everything you have to do to have a winning football season? Obviously, I have no track record doing that, but I can watch and I can see the teams that do it. And can Philly, go back to back? I don't know that, obviously. We're going to find out along the way, but they certainly have a lot of pieces still in place. They have a lot of players who, give a darn. And that matters too. I mean, John, I can't tell you when, there are times when you look at a team and even in let's say in preseason practice in football, you look at a team and you can kind of pick out the guys who are really up for this and the guys who, maybe aren't so sure of themselves, in that moment. And I've seen both along the way. And it's really, that's the one thing I've missed because I haven't been at training camp for the last couple years is because I can perceive things pretty well. It's hard to do it though if you're not in the arena. And I haven't been in the arena candidly for a couple years now.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry about that. You deserve to be in the arena, and I love your thoughts about Josh Allen because I've thought that about him from afar. Kansas City, they have enough to make a run.
Do they look like a tired team to you in some respect? I mean, the season just started, obviously, but they're going to have to muster something pretty special, I think, John, because they've done it at such a high level, and it has to be very difficult to, to get that train running. Then you stop, but you're winning and it's fun and it's everything else. And then things get a little bit harder. And I have to believe that's a tough time for a lot of teams that are very, very used to winning. But listen, I certainly wouldn't think Andy Reid's thinking that. Obviously he's not. He doesn't care what I think anyway, but, nor should he. But, when you look at these teams that are putting it together year after year, there has to be a component where they're just worn out at some point, John. I'm not saying the Chiefs are there yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's a bit of a dip this season.
Well, there's no question they're going to go down at some point, and we'll see if it's this year. They have certainly missed their offense. Their offense hasn't been great. Their pass receivers have been hurt. They're slowly but surely coming back. You want to hear a funny thing? I read in one newspaper someone saying Kansas City is going to go out and get Tyreek Hill. In other words, get Hill back again.
Right.
And then he suffered this terrible injury.
And
that's one thing in all these sports. You can't put your finger on something until you know who's injured and how long will they be out.
100%. And that changes everything for teams. Absolutely, John. Yep.
Yeah. So, next week, not next week, Monday, Kansas City is playing Jacksonville in Jacksonville. And I've been waiting for Trevor Lawrence to become a big time player. Maybe this is the year.
Perhaps it is. I mean, it's, it gets late early sometimes, for some of these players that come out, you think they're going to be big deals. They're not big deals. And then, there they are, on the bench watching, players play the sport that they thought they should be playing. But yeah, I think, you look at Lawrence, you look at, there are other players obviously in that category. And for some reason, I'm not thinking of one at the moment, but yeah, he's a good one, John. He's a good one because it's about the time for him, to make a move, to be one of the better quarterbacks in this league. And we haven't candidly seen that on a regular basis, anything close to it.
Well, what I always think doesn't mean that I'm right, but sometimes, I saw Lawrence play first couple of years, and no quarterback can play if he's in a prone position. So,
sure.
You have to improve the team, especially the offensive line. I think I may think the offensive line is the most important part of a football team, because if you have an offensive line, you can run and you can protect the quarterback. And if you don't, you can't do either. So actually, I really think of that. If you have a great offensive line, I think you can go. I think it's one of the reasons why Detroit has been so good. I've often kidded, Kim, that Dan Campbell, an ex-Giant, they ought to put
great guy.
They ought to put a statue outside of Ford Field, because they were bad for so long.
Yes.
And now they're a very good team.
They are a very good team. They are a very good team. Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it, John. And Dan Campbell is one of these guys. I remember him way back in the Giants locker room. And I've told Dan this in recent years. I've had a chance to talk to him on occasion here and there. And he, even now when I would bring up things from the past and everything else, he defers everything. And all he wants to talk about is teammates. And this is now him as a head coach. And I've always said that when I have had occasion to talk to him, which has been intermittently over these past several years, he remembers, of course, the locker room as I did, and because it was a big locker room back there for the Giants. They had lots of egos, lots of expectations, and they were good teams. But Dan is one of those guys who never takes any credit. Never. Even as a coach, he disperses it among his players, which I'm sure, makes them very happy, and says a lot about Dan Campbell.
Oh, it sure does. And it said a lot about you, Kim, that you've given me a half hour of great football talk. I guess I love you more than ever. We've been friends a long time. It's been great. Yes. I appreciate you being on, and we certainly will call you again. Okay.
That sounds great, John. Have a great night.
Yes. Thank you. We have a break, right? We don't have a break. Oh, okay. Oh, we did that break. I forget things. Have you noticed? It comes with age, I think. Well, anyway, I wanted to say that about John Mara, and I wanted to talk about Cam Schlittler. The Yankees have done that before. In 1950, a young left-hander from Astoria, Whitey Ford, was brought up, and I think he went 9-1, and the Yankees won the World Series, one of their 5 straight. And they did it again in 1964. They brought up a guy named Mel Stottlemyre at mid-year, and he pitched the Yankees not only to the pennant, they had to come from way behind to do it, but Stottlemyre pitched and won the first game of the World Series, and he lost the last game of the World Series to Bob Gibson. I bring this out all the time. I'm such a Yankee. The Yankees played the 1964 series without their best pitcher, Whitey Ford, and their shortstop, Tony Kubek, and they took it to 7. That's not a disgrace to lose to Gibby, who was one of the greatest pitchers that I have ever seen. Well, we come your way every week from 4 to 5 and talk about sports, which I have lived with my whole life. Am I lucky? I have had sports as like a buddy, a friend, a hobby. And when I was a little boy, I fell in love with basketball, football, baseball, and hockey. And here I am in my 80s, and I love basketball, football, baseball, and hockey. And I will continue to do so. I want to thank our staff Can't do it without our staff. They are absolutely brilliant. Vincent Lospinoso, Jonas Jackson, and our executive producer, Elias Raff. And I will look for you next Saturday from 4 to 5. This is John Sterling. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to The John Sterling Show. You can hear The John Sterling Show Saturdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?